I'm Angie Ahn.
And I'm Leona Ahn.
Angie, can you tell us a little bit about your background in hockey?
Yeah, so I started playing actually the first year that I played, I was 10 years old, but I didn't really know how to skate and there wasn't a girls team and we didn't join, I didn't join a boys team. So I actually ended up playing on a midget women's team, like a girls team that played in the women's league. So I played for that season and then realized that they were way out of my league. So I went to Ringette for a couple of years. And then I came back and I played on an all girls team and we played Alberta Winter Games and things like that together. And then we played kind of at the top level for midget hockey. And then I went and played at the University of Alberta for the Pandas. And I also played for the Edmonton Chimos when they existed.
Leona, so was hockey a part of your life growing up as well?
So no, it wasn't, because as you know, we all know hockey is a very privileged sport. And, as immigrants to, Calgary, we didn't have a lot of money growing up. But actually, when Angie and I got together, we fell in love through hockey actually. And for Christmas one year, she bought me hockey lessons as an adult. So in Calgary, I got 10 hockey lessons, learned how to put all the gear on, learned how to skate because I didn't know how to do any of that, and joined the league there, but then realized I wanted to play with women and not men because they can still shoot. Like, even though they can't skate, they can still shoot. So I transferred to Saha, the rec league, and played 2 or 3 seasons with those girls and just had the best time. So
Oh, fun. That's awesome. So you actually learned as an adult how to
yeah,
skate
and
and
I love it so
play.
much. And now our young daughter, Brooklyn, who's 4, just started under 5 hockey. It's the cutest thing ever.
Yeah.
Aw. And was it a question if she was going to play hockey or not? Or was it like, no, we're counting down the days till we get to be hockey moms?
Yeah, so we really wanted her to play hockey. Of course, if she was the type of child that hated it, then that would have been, a different decision, but we definitely wanted to try with her. So we had her at outdoor rinks at, I think, 2 a couple times. She wasn't loving it at 2, and then at 3 she wanted to skate more, and then this year she loves it and her skating has improved so much. So it's been really exciting to watch. And in the mornings when she has hockey, even though it's once a week, she asks, like, do I have hockey today? Do I have hockey today? And the days that she does, even though I have to wake her up because the time is so early, she gets really excited and jumps out of bed and puts on her under gear. And yeah, it's really fun to watch.
Oh, that's awesome. And is your youngest taking a liking to it too?
Yeah, he loves just carrying around a hockey stick all over the yard, all over the house. But we're putting him on skates this winter, so we'll see how he does. So in Korea, when you reach 100 days, we have this celebration called Dorjabi, and we basically lay out a bunch of items to manifest what kind of life the child will have. So back in the day, they used to have things like rice and money and different types of things like that. But nowadays, in contemporary times, parents are putting hockey sticks and paintbrushes and you know like stethoscopes just to see what kind of jobs that they will have. And both our children chose hockey sticks.
Yeah.
Really?
Brooklyn actually grabbed a paintbrush because she'd grabbed a paintbrush, put it down, and then went right for the hockey stick. Yeah. And Ethan just went right to the hockey stick.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So yeah, they're literally born to play now. So
well, it's really funny. Brooklyn, she had an intro to hockey just recently because she just started, and after that session, we got a certificate of like participation, but it happened to have a Team Canada logo on it. So when we came out, she looked at Angie and I and said, "Does this mean I'm on Team Canada now?"
It was quite cute.
Yeah, we're like, oh, you're gonna have to practice really hard for that.
Yeah, you have to work really hard to get there, sweetheart. But if that's a dream of yours, then you can.
Yeah, we'll support you.
Yeah.
One day. Yeah. Hockey and sport gives us amazing opportunities in life. but those wouldn't be possible if it weren't for those who were serving our country and fought for our freedoms. Leona, first, I want to thank you for your service. And can you tell us about your career in the military?
Yeah, so I've been serving for just over 16 years. 4 of those was at the military academy, which there's only one in Canada called the Royal Military College of Canada, where I got my business degree. And I've been stationed currently in my career in Edmonton and Calgary. And my current job title is Officer Commanding of a company in a service battalion right here at Canadian Forces Base Edmonton. Well, currently I have just over 200 people that I'm in charge of, and we provide combat service support and institutional services to one Canadian Mechanized Brigade Group, which essentially means anytime that you need logistics, whether for combat operations, exercises, events, or deployments, we have a part to play in the execution and planning of that. I've also have had the privilege of doing unique and challenging different things in the military. Like in 2010, I was deployed to the Vancouver Olympics. So we were doing security deterrence there, just to ensure that Canadians are safe and all the athletes. When Calgary actually flooded in 2013, the Southern Alberta floods, the Canmore High River season, I was deployed as the Joint Task Force Quartermaster doing flood relief operations and supporting logistics for that. And when I was 23, I deployed to Afghanistan and Kandahar for about 7 months too. So really cool, unique experiences.
Very unique. And yeah, everything from crisis to like going overseas and then getting to be a part of When We Welcome the World in 2010. So that's amazing. Angie, can you give us some insight on what it's like to be a military wife?
Yeah, so it's there's never really a dull moment. Although she technically works kind of more of a 9 to 5 day in and day out. There's a lot of different things depending on what her current role is. So sometimes there's exercises involved, and when there's exercises involved, she could be gone for, a few days to a few weeks to a couple months when she's on exercise. And then when there's deployments, then when she goes internationally, she's gone for approximately 6 months. We as a couple haven't experienced a deployment yet. So we're kind of looking forward to that. Leona would like to do that. So we're looking forward to what that might look like for our family. But it's a real honor to be a spouse for someone that's in uniform, that's representing our country. And I always look at it as a really great opportunity also for our kids, to see somebody who's not just looking out for our family, but looking out for our community and looking out for our country. So yeah, it's interesting. So today, actually, I had Leona come to the school. I'm a teacher, and she came to present to a couple of our grade 6 classes.
So that's amazing that you are able to bring Leona in and educate the 6th graders on in life in wearing the uniform. So do you find, Leona, is there any tie between hockey and managing the demands of the military in your role?
Oh yeah, we are Canadian Armed Forces. We're Canadians first and foremost. So hockey is the pillar of any sporting competition. And actually, we hold our own hockey nationals and regionals, women and men, within the military. And after Christmas, actually, we're going to have a week-long sporting competition where hockey is kind of the primary event, and all military members of all walks of life. And they're pretty good, actually. Not as good as Hockey Canada, but good for their division levels, I guess. Yeah, so hockey is a big part of the military culture for sure.
So do you find that because you do have these national competitions and everyone is still a hockey player at their core, that it helps with the team culture?
Totally.
In the job?
Yeah. So I find that a lot of people who are successful in the military are athletes, whether that was in high school or university or in recreational league, any person that knows what it means to be part of a team and not just being the MVP, but being the person that's the supporter, the person that passes the puck, the person that always makes sure that the morale is high on the team, the person that's always worried about, does everyone have their water bottle? Every person matters to be that force multiplier to have an effective team. So I would say it transcends um, all things, and hockey being the primary sport in Canada, a lot of hockey players come in and bring those attributes that they would have brought to their athletic team onto the battlefield.
And when you talk, I know you just said that as a couple, you haven't experienced deployment yet, but it's something that you want to do. And would you be going in a different role? And is that something that obviously you said you're looking forward to it and it's something that you do want to do?
Totally. So, just like any other profession, when you're constantly training for something, you want to actually go do the real thing. So Edmonton has had the privilege to be on a road to high readiness for the last 3 years, basically, where we're training to pump out people to go overseas. And so we're on that rotation right now in Edmonton, where I'm based out of. So it's not confirmed yet, but I'm just hoping that I get to use the training that I've had to deploy overseas. And the current missions that the Canadian Armed Forces are involved in, the three main ones are Operation Reassurance, which is our security efforts and contributions to NATO to bring security in Europe. We have Operation Impact, which is our contribution to the Middle East and the fight against Daesh. And then we have Operation Unifier, which is in Ukraine, and we're helping build security capacities so that the state of Ukraine can remain sovereign. So those are the three named missions that we're looking at. We still have just over 100 people deployed on United Nations missions, ranging from Mali, Congo, South Sudan. But those named missions can come from anywhere across the Canadian Armed Forces at this point. And it really depends on what role you're going over as. But essentially, like at my rank level, which is a major, you would be probably in charge of something to assemble a certain type of team to have certain effects on the battlefield, as we call it, or training event or whatever. So because I'm a logistics officer, I would be probably involved in some sort of strategic operational level planning for that. Yeah.
And as we're approaching November 11th, what does Remembrance Day look like for you?
So, Remembrance Day is a great week to be in reflection and full of gratitude for the abundance that we have as Canadians, and to reflect on all the veterans and that are no longer with us today, and to the soldiers that are currently serving right now. But for us as a family, every year we've been going to ceremonies outside or inside. This year will probably be outside because of COVID-19. And we love to involve our kids, early on to kind of expose them to what it means to live in a true democracy and how privileged we are, and not to take anything for granted, and to pay tribute and feel gratitude for those people and be engaged in the stories of those soldiers and those veterans, because transformational kind of changes or reflections really happen through relations. I find not a lot of people care about it or a little bit apathetic about it unless they have a special relational tie, either through a friend or a family member. But once you know a soldier's story, even if it's a stranger, you're more likely to be a little bit more curious, a little bit more intrigued, which hopefully results in actions or engagement or curiosity to pay tribute to the Canadian Armed Forces and the veterans that have served.
And being a member of the Canadian Armed Forces, does the day take on any sort of significance for you personally as well?
For sure, because just we're like any other organization, but what's really kind of special within our bond, we really don't like to pay lip service when we say brothers and sisters in arms. So when we lose someone, whether that might not even necessarily be in combat, because we haven't been in combat since we left Afghanistan as the Canadian Armed Forces, but when we lose fellow soldiers through PTSD or trauma, or they just pass away, it still impacts us differently, because we know that when we're sent somewhere or Canadians call, that person that you work with, they're gonna have your back. in life or death situations. So it just adds that little bit more sentimental value, I think, as a serving member.
The relationships you build and the trust you have in your fellow fellow well brothers and sisters, like you just said, is must be like unexplainable. I don't think you could probably put that into words, and I really admire that. These days I think it's really easy to get lost in the hustle and bustle of life. Is there anything that you would like to say to encourage people to take the time to stop and remember those who have served, and to honor those who have currently served or currently are serving on November 11th?
Yeah, totally. I think one thing we can all agree on, because I feel like nowadays it's really hard to find common ground on a lot of things because everything is so polarized. There's a lot of rhetoric. And I would just say to the fellow citizens is it doesn't matter where you are politically affiliated, whether you like the government of Canada's foreign policy, or you even believe in the missions that we're doing internationally. But I think we can all agree on just support the human behind the uniform, because we're mothers and fathers, we're sisters and brothers, we're your friends, we're your neighbors. And, just to put it into a contemporary context, never did we think that the Canadian Armed Forces would be in long-term care facilities during a global pandemic. Never did we think that we would be sending military nurses to be at the Royal Alex, supporting ICU capacity? Or did we think that we're going to do vaccine distribution in Indigenous communities up north? And these are your everyday soldiers. So it's not all about the bloodshed and the combat. We are a pretty holistic force, as we've proven this year. We're fighting fires, we're doing flood relief operations, we're up north, as well as trying to build relations, diplomatic ties, securities in other regions outside Canada where they don't have the same privileges as us. So just come and support the human behind the uniform.
Yes, thank you so much for all you've done for our country and continue to do. And I think that we often thank the person in the uniform, but Angie, thank you to you too, because without the supportive spouse behind the uniform, I know that it's a lot harder to do their jobs. So,
And that's such a great point. And I'm so glad you brought that up because, I would be nothing without Angie and our family. And I know that a lot of military members would say the same thing. We cannot do what we do. We cannot do what we love without our families and the incredible sacrifices of parenting alone, the postings, the instability for families sometimes, and putting them through that and still having a smile and supporting. That means the world to every soldier.